trees, and there's all different landscapes out there that we can pick from to do our painting with. Now, I have some examples that I pulled out that I wanted to show you how we get our images onto our canvas. So here we go. There's some images that I recommend you looking for, specifically ones with horizon line. Now, this horizon line gets lost way out into the distance, but there it is. And when you have horizon lines, it just helps the viewer understand the image a little bit better. So what I find with my 8th graders is if they find an image that doesn't have a horizon line because it either has a top view or it is just really, really packed in and dense with either trees or maybe it's a close-up. A lot of times I would say pick a different picture. Usually the viewer wants to be able to identify what they're looking at by having that horizon line, and that really does help us figure out what is in the middle ground, background, and foreground. Okay, so let's just continue drawing with this. If I were going to choose this for my canvas, there's a couple of things that I would do to really think about the piece. This is a vertical photo, so I'd grab my canvas and I would make sure it is a vertical composition or up and down. Here's something that is interesting to me though. If I were to compare this image to my canvas, I would say this is long and narrow and this is a little bit of a wider rectangle. So as the artist, I would decide if I want to take a little bit off of my image from the bottom and focus on the rock formations in the sky, or I could take a little bit off on the top. So now, does this rectangle look more like this one? I think proportionally it does. I think maybe I was a little too aggressive, but if I fold it like that, I think that that's a close matchup. So when you look at your composition in your piece, that's something I want you to watch out for. Then your next step is to outline the sections. Okay, so I've got sky, I've got water, and I've got rocks. So when I outline this, I see there's a little rock up here. I see there's a cliff here that I would go on to. I'd figure out where does this rock go. This one is behind it. And I would just start creating my outline. Okay, so this image is easy to see where the outlines and the rocks end and the water begins. So I'm going to jump into another image to help you guys see how this can vary from piece to piece. So next example, I think this is another great example. When looking at this one, I'd first double check, is it proportionate? I think it really is. Again, it's another vertical photo. If I wanted it to be a horizontal photo, I would take a little from the top and a little from the bottom, where I could then turn it horizontally, but that's your decision as an artist. So how do I break it up into the different sections? Okay. See the clouds in the sky? I'm actually going to ignore them. I'm not going to draw them. They're a detail that I'll add later. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the mountain from the sky, and I would outline here. The second outline that I would do is I would outline the differences between like the cliffs. So I like to add where the highlights and the shadows fall a little bit. That will help me later on when I add my different values. Okay, so it gets a little bit gray in here. I would say here is my tree line, and I'm going to go just below the trees. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to add the tree texture on top. So I'll let my camera focus. I went below the tree line with the idea that when I paint, I'm going to paint my trees on top of my mountains. Therefore, I'm going to let my tree lines or those tips go above. I'm going to separate this sandy part. I'm going to separate it from the water edge, and I'm going to do the same type of mirroring. And these are the lines that I would add onto my canvas again. Okay, maybe even outlining some of these darker sections. That might help me when I do my painting and color mixing. Okay, so I'm done with this one, but notice I only have Like these 1 lines, 2 lines, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. All right, so what about this? Has more detail. Okay, in this case, I would look from rectangle to rectangle. Do I have too much? Would I cut anything off? I might cut a little bit off this side. But when I do my lines, I'm thinking a little bit about this formation here. Again, when looking at the detail, I would want to see how these rocks and cliffs like overlap each other. And I'd be really thoughtful about that when I'm doing my outline. This is for demonstration purposes. I also would add, there's like this valley that goes up into here. There's a line here, separates there. And then I would find that edge here. All right, so those are the lines I would add. Should I add the reflection in this one? Actually, I think I would like to add a little bit of that. That will help me later on when I'm adding my colors to this. I know they're light and faded, so they'll be mixed in with the watercolor, but nonetheless, it's nice to have those lines. So these are the lines that I would draw onto my canvas. Okay, so let's just talk about a couple of things. When you get your canvas, when you get the approval, like, okay, I'm ready to move on. All right, I'm going to paint this one. When I do my first steps, I'm going to make sure my name is on here and my art movement. So if I'm going to do, oh my God, movement. Oh my gosh. Okay, if I am going to do Impressionism, there we go. So things I would try to figure out. Here's some things that might help you. I have found that if I fold my photo from photo edge to photo edge, that helps me find what is on the top half of my canvas and what's on the bottom half of my canvas. And if I fold it the same way, I find out what's in the middle. It just helps me break it down. So if that naturally goes here and here, I know that this mountain edge starts up towards the top, but is going to go all the way past the center point. And I'm going to draw lightly on here. So this is kind of what I'm doing. Here's some things I want you to notice. How light am I drawing? Like, how well can you actually see my lines? I'm hoping that you're thinking to yourself, like, actually, Mrs. Moore, I really can. That's how light I want you to draw. Another thing I want you to be thoughtful of is when you are working with your pencils, you can indent the canvas, meaning you can scratch it. So if I had 2 pencils to pick from, I would pick the dull pencil, not the sharp mechanical pencil. I don't want those deep lines. And then I would go in and really look at my reflection. I know I did this really quickly, but I'm hoping that this is going to give you some perspective and some time to really be thoughtful about how you're going to transfer this onto here and how many lines you're going to use. So again, I did not draw in any trees. I did not draw in any clouds. Those are things that I'll add later. It's just breaking the background from the middle ground, from the foreground, or sky from land, from water. So I wish you the best of luck and can't wait to see what you do.